the height in feet, h, of an object shot upwards into the air with an initial velocity v0 and initial height h0 after t seconds is given by the formula h is equal to negative 16t squared plus v0t plus h0. Suppose a ball with initial height of 5 feet is hit upward with initial velocity of 40 feet per second. We want to know when will the ball reach a height of 20 feet and when will the ball hit the ground. First, let's develop the formula using the information that we have. We have an initial height of 5 feet, so that's the h0, and an initial velocity of 40 feet per second, that's the v0. So we'll use the formula, the equation, h is equal to negative 16t squared plus 40t plus 5. The first part asks, when will the ball reach a height of 20 feet? We want the height to be 20 feet. We want h equal to 20. Well, the value for h, and when will the ball reach a height of 20 feet, we want to find the value of t, right? We need to find the time, the value of t, that makes h equal to 20. And I know that h is given as negative 16t squared plus 40t plus 5, and I need this to equal 20. Now this is a quadratic equation, but it's not in that standard form. So the first thing we need to do here is subtract 20 from both sides, making one side of the equation equal to 0. This yields negative 16t squared plus 40t minus 15 is equal to 0. Now, I'm not going to even try to factor this. I'm going to go straight to the quadratic formula. So let's apply the quadratic formula. With a equal to negative 16, b equal to 40, and c equal to negative 15. Applying the quadratic formula, then t would equal the opposite of 40, plus or minus the square root of 40 squared minus 4 by negative 16 by negative 15 over 2 by negative 16. So then t would equal negative 40 plus or minus the square root, and we simplify this. I'm using a calculator here in the background. Let's see, 40 squared is 1600, 1600. And I see, let's see, minus, I see three negatives here, so it's going to end up being minus. And 4 times 16 times 15 is 960. And 2 times negative 16 is negative 32. So then t is equal to negative 40 plus or minus, and let's see, 1600 minus 960 is 640. So plus or minus the square root of 640 over negative 32. Now, I have this expression, but it's not very useful in this form. I need to actually calculate what those numbers mean. So, using my calculator, I have two solutions. Let's calculate each of them. So I have t is equal to negative, and I'm going to sort of draw this the way I might enter it on the calculator. So on the calculator, I might enter parentheses negative 40 minus square root of 640, then close the numerator and divide by negative 32. I punch that into the calculator and let it approximate that for me, and I get to to 2 decimal places, I get 2.04. And then I find the other solution. T is equal to, parentheses, negative 40 plus the square root of 640 divided by negative 32. And I let the calculator approximate that. And I get to 2 decimal places, 0.46. So the exercise asks, when will the ball reach a height? And if we think about this realistically, if we hit a ball straight up into the air, it goes up for a little while, hits a highest point, and then drops back down. When does it reach a height of 40 feet? I would interpret that to mean on the way up. I would say the ball reaches a height of 20 feet after 0.46 seconds, because t is the time in seconds from this formula. The second part of this exercise asks, when will the ball hit the ground? We normally take the ground to mean a height of 0. So the ground, we want the height to be 0. And we can use the same equation, the same basic idea. And it's asking for when, so we want to find t again. Find the value of time that makes the height equal to 0. So, negative 16 t squared plus 40t plus 5 equals 0. And we, again, will solve this using the quadratic formula. And it's already in the standard form. So with a equal to negative 16, b equal to 40, and c equal to 5. So then t is equal to the opposite of 40 plus or minus the square root of 40 squared minus 4 by negative 16 by 5 over 2 by negative 16. So then t is equal to negative 40 plus or minus the square root of 1600, and then minus 4 times 16 times 5, well, and we have another negative in there, so that's going to end up being a plus. Plus 4 by 16 by 5 is 320 over negative 32. T is equal to negative 40 plus or minus the square root of 1920 over negative 32. And like before, let's find these two values using our calculator. So one of the values, t, would be negative 40 minus the square root of 1920 over negative 32. And if I calculate that, let's see, negative 40 minus the square root of 1920 and divide by negative 32, that ends up being approximately 2.62. My other value, negative 40 plus the square root of 1920 over negative 32, is negative 0.12. When will the ball hit the ground? Now, we sort of make an assumption here that the ball was hit at t equals 0, right? The ball was hit straight up at t equals 0, and then time moves forward, time moves positively from there. Negative time doesn't make sense in this context. So I'll say that the ball hits the ground after 2.62 seconds.